Wednesday. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Joe Fryer. We begin this morning with the results of Election Day across the country as voters make their voices heard.
The results could also potentially foreshadow how next year's presidential election could play out. Abortion was on the ballot in some places where it's really become the political issue in the nearly year and a half since the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. In Ohio, voters approved enshrining abortion rights into the state constitution, giving a big win to abortion rights advocates. The measure guarantees every person in Ohio the right to, quote, one's own reproductive medical treatment, including but not limited to abortion.
And over in Kentucky, Governor Andy Beshear wins re-election, holding off Republican challenger Daniel Cameron. Abortion was a huge issue in that race. And here's an interesting fact. The party that wins the Kentucky governor's race has gone on the following year to win the White House in the last few election cycles. Beshear addressed supporters during a victory party last night in Louisville.
Folks, this wasn't my win. This was our victory. It was a victory that sends a loud, clear message. A message that candidates should run for something and not against someone.
Let's break it all down with NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson in Columbus, Ohio, and NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray. Good morning to both of you. Priscilla, let's start with you there in Ohio. Big victory last night for abortion rights advocates in a pretty red state. What's some of the reaction you are seeing there in Columbus?
Yeah, Joe, Savannah, good morning. I was in a room full of abortion access advocates last night when that decision came in, and there were a lot of cheers, a lot of tears, and a lot of hugs. These were the folks who had spent months organizing and advocating, and they were even out until polls closed last night knocking doors. And I want to play some of what I heard from those folks in that room.
We showed up against all odds, against all the misinformation and disinformation. And we said, enough with the bans on our bodies. Give us agency and autonomy to make these most personal decisions of when and where you start a family.
It's unlike any other feeling I've ever felt, just overwhelmed with joy for democracy and for freedom of people. I think this is going to have a ripple effect across the nation, but also for Ohio in 2024.
And picking up on her last point, there are at least 7 states in 2024 that will have a similar measure on the ballot. And just to be clear, what this amendment does is it says the right to an abortion is enshrined in the state constitution, but that the state legislature can put limits on that after the point of fetal viability, which is around 22 to 24 weeks. And so we heard the folks in that room saying last night they are going to stand with those other states. They are going to walk them through how they organized, how they did it. So this has certainly dealt a blow to the anti-abortion advocates here as they try to think through what comes next this morning. Joe, Savannah.
And Mark, let's bring you in here. So there were 2 governor races that we were watching closely last night. What do we know right now about the re-election wins in both Kentucky and Mississippi?
Yeah, Savannah, it points to the power of incumbency, and kind of despite so much of the political chaos and instability and Americans thinking that the country's headed in the wrong direction, we have seen Democratic and Republican incumbents end up getting reelected, not only here, but in the 2022 midterms, where only one incumbent ended up going down to defeat. And when you're incumbent, you often end up having a big advantage when it comes to resources, that you were able to have 4 years to lay the groundwork for your own re-election. And Beshear used that. And as Joe mentioned earlier, in addition to incumbency, he was able to use the issue of abortion and fighting for abortion rights in his advertising against Republican Daniel Cameron. In Mississippi, you did have a scandal that had affected the state government, that Tate Reeves was having to battle through. It involved former NFL quarterback Brett Favre, and the Democrat in the race, Brandon Presley, was able to keep almost even in resources and ad spending with Reeves, but Reeves was able to hold on in that red state of Mississippi.
Priscilla, let's touch on another issue here. It didn't get as much attention as abortion, but in Ohio, we have the legalization of recreational marijuana, the 24th state to do that. What's the significance of that?
Yeah, Joe, it's huge because this is a state that is considered conservative, red-leaning, that has voted to legalize marijuana, with 57% of voters making that choice and voting in favor of that. And again, it may be a lesson on messaging, because what the advocates for that said was that this is just like alcohol and we should regulate it and we should tax it just like alcohol. And as I was at the polls yesterday talking to folks, a lot of people seem to agree with that. Now, that's not to say that this is working everywhere. We saw last year in Oklahoma a measure like this failed, but it is going to be on the ballot in 2024 in a number of those kinds of states: Florida, Nebraska, South Dakota, among others. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out there as well. Joe, Savannah?
And Mark, let's talk about some new information that we're getting from last night, exit polling that we're seeing. What can you tell us about how people feel regarding abortion rights in the state of Ohio? And if you're working right now on the Biden re-election campaign, what are big takeaways from last night's results?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway is just the power of abortion in our politics after Roe versus Wade was overturned. According to the exit poll in Ohio, and remember, Ohio is a red state in our American politics right now, you end up having Democrats holding the advantage on which party better handles the issue of abortion. But maybe more significantly, you have about 6 in 10 voters who participated last night who believe that abortion should be legal in all or most circumstances. Another 6 in 10 who think that they oppose the overturn of Roe versus Wade. And this is all happening not in a place like California or New York with these 6 in 10 margins, but in the state of Ohio. And we saw the same dynamic play out last year in Kansas as well. And it just shows you that if these types of issues like abortion play this way in the Ohio's and Kansas of the world, that yes, the Democrats see this as a very powerful issue for them.
All right, Priscilla and Mark kicking us off this hour with election coverage. Thank you both.
Thank you. Well, this morning, Republican presidential candidates are preparing to take the stage in Miami for the third GOP primary debate. It's hosted by NBC News. Tonight's slimmed-down field will feature 5 presidential hopefuls. You see them on your screen: Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, businessman Vivek Ramaswamy, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
One notable contender, of course, will be missing: former President Donald Trump. The Republican frontrunner also skipped the first 2 debates. Once again, he's offering some counter-programming, a rally just outside Miami planned for tonight while the debate is taking place. For a preview, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, who is in Florida, and senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen.
Vaughn, let's kick it off with you. So Nikki Haley, we have seen her see a boost in polling after her last 2 debate performances. And then Governor Ron DeSantis also just secured this big endorsement from Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. Both have sort of pitched themselves as alternatives to Donald Trump. What are the 2 saying in the lead up to tonight's debate, and what will you be watching for in their performances?
Right. Good morning, Savannah and Joe. Just look at this. We're 68 days away from January 15th, which is the Iowa caucus. And when you see where Donald Trump is in polling nationally, but also in the likes of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, he continues to dominate this field. And that's where you see Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis looking at this debate as their opportunity to separate themselves from the rest of the pack and make it clear that they are the best Trump alternative. So you should expect tonight, based off of these past weeks of them on the campaign trail, that these 2 individuals really begin to take each other head on. When you look at the latest polling out of Iowa, Donald Trump sits at 43%. The next on down, tied at 16%, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. So it's not just about polling support, but also donor support, and making the case over the next 2 months that they are the ones that are the best alternative to take Donald Trump head on.
John, let's talk about some of the other candidates. The GOP field has been shrinking, certainly when it comes to who can qualify for debates. So what is Senator Scott, former Governor Christie, Ramaswamy, what do they need to do to stay alive until the caucus begins in Iowa?
Yeah, good morning, Joe and Savannah. The short answer is they're going to need the donors to meet the threshold. They're going to need the polling to meet the threshold to make that next debate. And, you know, it could be that we see multiple candidates fall off the debate stage between now and then. Tim Scott certainly in that position of having some concern, Chris Christie in that position of having some concern, and Vivek Ramaswamy having concerns about that. Tonight, I think, as Vaughn said, we're going to see a little bit of a consolidation just in terms of you know, who the rest of the Republican Party is watching closely, and that'll be Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, and we'll see if any of the rest of them are able to make that next debate stage.
Poor John coming to us from a Miami balcony, water in the background. John, tell us, especially when we're looking at those top two contenders, what will you be watching out for tonight, listening for?
Number one, I want to see how they're going to contrast against each other. And number two, how they're going to contrast against Donald Trump, who was the far and away front runner. For a long time, nobody laid a glove on Trump. We saw Trump, effectively weigh Ron DeSantis down to the point that DeSantis is actually polling worse than Trump against Joe Biden in some polls. So, what are these candidates going to say that tells Republican voters that they would be better in a general election against Joe Biden? What are they going to say that tells Republican voters that they will be better than the other one, meaning Haley better than DeSantis or DeSantis better than Haley against Donald Trump?
Vaughn, as we mentioned, Donald Trump will not be in attendance at tonight's debate. Instead, he's going to hold a rally at nearby Hialeah, which has a Latin population of more than 90%. Trump has seen growth when it comes to that demographic. So what are we expecting to hear from the former president tonight?
Right. On two counts here, Donald Trump has tried consistently to make the case to Republican voters that this Republican primary is already over. That is why he's not on the debate stage tonight, instead holding a rally and making the case that Republicans should focus on beating Joe Biden 11 months from now. But for Donald Trump, this is, where he is in such a strong position in this Republican field. Just take on Monday. He was sitting in a courtroom in Lower Manhattan testifying in a lawsuit against his family business, one that could potentially lead to the stripping of the business license of the Trump organization. The other Republicans thought that come the time that these trials begin, that this would knock Donald Trump down off his pedestal as leader of the Republican Party. But that is just not the reality that we have lived through. In fact, since his indictments and the lawsuits that have come against him, he has only strengthened his position. And so for Donald Trump, instead of going on the debate stage and taking on the likes of Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, who he contends are so far down, and if you look at polling, they are anywhere from 25 to 40 points below him. Instead of giving them any credence or any time, he says that it's important for Republicans to go and make the case to voters, including in the heavily Latino population just outside of Miami here, that they need to focus on beating Joe Biden and the Democrats. And based off the results of last night's election, Donald Trump has a case to make.
Vaughn Hilliard, John Allen, thank you both very much.
And you can catch tonight's GOP debate from Miami live right here on NBC News Now. It'll be moderated by NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt. Meet the press moderator Kristen Welker along with Hugh Hewitt of the Salem Radio Network. Coverage kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific time. Today, Ivanka Trump is set to take the stand in the civil fraud case against her father, her brothers, and their family business. The former president's eldest daughter served as executive vice president for development and acquisitions at the Trump organization until 2017.
For more on this, we are joined by MSNBC anchor Lindsay Reiser. She is outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. And we've got NBC News legal analyst Danny Sabelos here on set with us.
Lindsay, let's start with you. You've been following this trial from the beginning. You've already seen Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, and then, of course, the former president himself take the stand. So what can we expect today inside that courtroom?
Well, Ivanka Trump has fought her subpoena to testify. In fact, she appealed it, saying that it would be cumbersome for her kids' schedule. And she also appealed on relevance and jurisdiction. She doesn't live in New York anymore. Now, the First Department Appellate Division denied that motion for a stay of her testimony. So we are expecting to hear from her today. And the Attorney General's office says she has intimate details and knowledge of these business dealings that are at the heart of this case. That the Attorney General's office says many of these deals were based off of financial statements that had overinflated values, so they got better terms than they should have gotten. And we can definitely hear a lot about a couple of different properties. Number one is the old post office that was transformed into the luxury hotel. They sold it in 2022. She was the captain for that project. She was also the main contact between the Trump organization and their largest lender, Deutsche Bank. So we're probably going to hear a lot about Deutsche Bank today. And also 2 penthouse apartments in Trump Park Avenue. Essentially, she was offered the opportunity to buy those apartments at a much lower rate than what was listed on the financial statements for one of those apartments. She could buy it for $8.5 million, but it was valued at $25 million on one of those financial statements. And then, different from what we've seen from Don and Eric and the former president himself, she will likely, to the extent that the defense team will want to face cross-examination after the direct examination from the state Attorney General's office. That is because they want to avoid her having to come and travel again and leave her kids again. So we're likely to hear from her today. Could it go into tomorrow? Possibly, but the Defense Department says that they don't want to have trial tomorrow if possible. They want to file some motions likely to appeal the case on some of the things that we've seen this week and last week. And then they expect to begin their case, the defense does, in earnest on Monday. They say they should be wrapped up by December 15th. Joe and Savannah.
Let's bring Danny in here on set with us. So as Lindsay laid out, Ivanka different in this particular case than her brothers are. She hasn't really been involved in the Trump organization since 2017, dismissed as an actual defendant. So what will you be looking for with that backdrop in her testimony? You know, is this somebody who could help her father potentially?
Possibly. I mean, maybe in the sense that the other Trump witnesses, the sons, were not nearly as enthusiastic government witnesses. And, of course, that was no surprise. These are people who are going to be hostile to the Attorney General and their mission. But what I am interested in is something that Lindsay mentioned, which is the extent to which she was involved in connecting up the Trump defendants with Deutsche Bank. I think that may be interesting, but it's entirely possible she may testify pretty consistently with the other Trump children, which is the theme that, look, I may have been involved from a figurehead perspective, but I relied heavily on our accountants and other people. And even if I provided information to them, they are the ones who prepared those financial statements. And I am someone who just supplied information. I wasn't involved in presenting that. But because she is a witness and not a party, there is that subtle gravitational pull that she should probably not think too much about loyalty and focus on telling the truth.
So, I mean, Lindsay, since she left the White House, Ivanka has distanced herself from her family, at least in the public realm. What are we hearing from Team Trump ahead of Ivanka's testimony?
He posted on Truth Social, blasting this entire case, saying, I am worth billions of dollars more than what is on my financial statements. They are very conservative. This echoes what he has said in front of the cameras, what he said on the stand, that he didn't include his most valuable asset, his brand. The Attorney General's office says that some of these financial statements actually did take that into account, and also just called that something intangible that you can't take into account. The former president repeated a derogatory term that he has used against Attorney General Letitia James before in his Truth Social post. He again mentioned that he is not allowed a jury. This is a bench trial, so it's only the judge who's going to be deciding on the rest of the causes of action and damages. The judge has said that that is not that kind of case. This is a bench trial case. And he also tried to pull out a document when he was testifying that it was essentially the disclaimer clause that banks have to do their own due diligence. And so that might be something we see again when it comes to a possible appeal, guys.
So, Danny, Ivanka is the last witness for the state. What are you looking for? What can we expect in the defense's case coming up?
The defense's case is going to focus on one major theme, which is something that Lindsay just referred to, that the Trump brand and real estate values, two separate things, are both so intangible that New York real estate or real estate anywhere is worth whatever someone wants to pay for it. And sometimes it's worth, in maybe someone's delusional mind who's selling it, whatever they think it's worth when they put it on the market. We've all been on Zillow and said they want that for that. So that argument, as silly as it sounds, applies to gigantic buildings the same way it applies to, I don't know, a condo. So this is going to be a big part of their argument. So, too, is going to be the idea that the Trump brand is totally intangible. It could be worth infinity.
All right. Lindsay Reiser, Danny Ceballos, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's turn now to the escalating violence between Israel and Hamas. Defense troops are continuing to move further into Gaza City, where Israeli forces believe the Hamas command center is located.
Israel's defense minister says Gaza has been divided in two, with northern Gaza completely isolated from life-saving supplies and fuel. But as troops prepare for possible combat, questions are growing over Israel's plan for after the invasion. Prime Minister Netanyahu says he plans to have infinite control of Gaza's security. But White House National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby says the Biden administration does not agree with that.
Let the Prime Minister speak to his comments and what he meant by indefinite. President Biden's been very clear we don't support a reoccupation of Gaza by the Israeli Defense Forces. We do think that there needs to be a healthy set of conversations about what post-conflict Gaza looks like and what governance looks like. What we absolutely agree with our Israeli counterparts on is what it can't look like, and it can't look like it looked on October 6th.
Yesterday, Israelis marked 1 month since the war began, remembering the more than 1,400 lives lost and honoring the nearly 240 hostages who were taken.
NBC News correspondent Jay Gray joins us from Tel Aviv with the very latest. Hey, Jay, good morning. So the Israeli Defense Forces are closing in on Gaza City, as we've been discussing, really completely isolating northern Gaza at this point. This was the area that they had asked people to move from, asked them to move south. But despite that, hundreds of thousands of residents did choose to remain in the area or did not have somewhere else to go. Walk us through the reasons people have chosen to stay and what kind of risk they are taking on as a result, what we're now seeing happen in the north of Gaza.
Yeah, and frankly, Savannah, they are risking their lives by staying in northern Gaza, but many don't have the ability to move. They either physically cannot move because of injuries, because of age, and no ability to get to where they're going. There are many who say they just don't trust the Israeli soldiers and the corridors that have been created, and we have seen some of those fall apart at times. And then there are others who don't believe they will ever be able to get back. Remember, these are people who are leaving with basically only the things they can carry and leaving their life's possessions behind. And again, many think that this is just another step toward Israel pushing them from Gaza, even though it's been said that that won't be the case. I should point out the IDF has said within the last hour or so that one of the corridors leading out of the north has been filled with thousands trying to get away from that area. So maybe a little progress, but you're right, still hundreds of thousands left behind there.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, the UN says all bakeries in northern Gaza are now closed because of the lack of fuel, lack of water, lack of wheat. UN also says health, sanitation, food services, they've all reached a breaking point. So what does this mean for people who are still living in northern Gaza? Is any aid getting to them?
Yeah, let's start with that, Joe. And no aid is getting to northern Gaza right now. No water, no food, no medicine, anything. And one of the reasons is the dangers there, but another is a lack of fuel. They can't make the trip from the Rafah border crossing into northern Gaza. They just don't have enough fuel. Starvation has become a very real concern for the UN and other human rights organizations. There's no water, so that is adding to the problem there. And there's nowhere those we've spoken to inside northern Gaza say to put the bodies of those who have been lost. And so living conditions have become horrific for many. Their buildings that are crumbled have been turned into tombs, essentially. And the UN is very worried about the spread of disease right now in that area.
Jay, also, as we just discussed a moment ago, we heard these comments from Prime Minister Netanyahu about the future of Gaza's security. It seemed to catch the White House off guard. We played a little bit there of what we heard in terms of a response, but remind us what exactly was said by Netanyahu, and then if there's been any clarification from the Israelis on what that meant.
Yeah, and what Benjamin Netanyahu said was that Israel should, and I'm quoting here, have an indefinite period with overall control of security in Gaza. And leaders here in Israel quickly chimed in, endorsing that. Even the opposition leader has said that he believes that should be the case. The White House is pushing back. We have heard from the president, who says any reoccupation of Gaza would be, and this is a quote from him, a big mistake in that region. They want no reduction of territory and have even said that Gaza and the West Bank should be united under the leadership of the Palestinian Authority when this war is over. So they've created a firm line as far as pushing back on those comments.
All right, Jay Gray, thank you very much.
Let's continue our coverage, bringing in Alana Sinenko for more on this. She is a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Alana, thank you so much for joining us. We want to start with talking with some recent developments. Your group says that 2 of your trucks were damaged after a convoy came under fire yesterday. Just tell us, what are the conditions your aid workers are facing right now, and how are you responding to the destruction of these aid convoys?
Indeed, yesterday was an incredibly difficult day for our team in Gaza, as if not every day is difficult for them. They were on the way to deliver urgent medical supplies to Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City, and On the way, the convoy was hit, despite the fact that it was clearly marked, and they had to turn and they delivered the supplies in Al-Shifa hospital instead, and then accompanied 6 ambulances to Rafah crossing. The working conditions are becoming more and more difficult every single day. I speak with our surgical team every day. They say that as of tonight, they will no longer have light, electricity where they sleep. So it's going to be much more difficult for us to connect with them. They continue receiving patients, children with horrific wounds, burns, and they're running out of the basic necessities to be able to treat them, things like Vaseline gauze. So these are incredibly difficult conditions to work in. And also now with this incident, we just need to reassess the security for our teams.
Absolutely. Alana, also, if we could turn and discuss the hostages for a moment. So Prime Minister Netanyahu is once again calling on Hamas to let the Red Cross evaluate the hostages being held in Gaza, visit with them. Has the Red Cross been able to contact Hamas leaders about the hostages? Have you been given any updates or any type of proof of life?
We've been in touch directly with Hamas authorities on the issue of hostages. It is one of our urgent priorities. We managed to facilitate the release of 4 hostages, but it's far from enough. Much more needs to be done, so we continue these discussions with everyone who can have any influence on this situation. And first and foremost, we insist that taking hostages is against international humanitarian law, that they should be released. And then also we want to visit them, get them the medicine that they need, just let their families know, get the news for the families, because it's impossible to imagine the nightmare that they're going through every single day.
Why hasn't that happened yet? I mean, for those who don't understand, how should this typically go? Why is it not happening now?
Well, it's hard for me to give you the reasons why is this not happening now. But like, if we look at currently at the situation in Gaza, I just don't see, unfortunately, any progress on any humanitarian issue that we are making, whether this has to do with delivery of urgent supplies to Gaza civilians as their situation is becoming more and more dire, or getting access to the hostages. I think, like, for us, we are a humanitarian organization, and we have mobilized every single resource that we can, people and resources, to try to reach people that need our help. But unless there are political, unless there are diplomatic solutions, and we are giving the necessary access, we just can't force our way through bullets. We won't be able to do our work if we are not giving the chance to do it.
Is this an unprecedented operation for the Red Cross in terms of its difficulties and in terms of what you are seeing, your team is seeing right before them, the humanitarian need?
I'm afraid that in the crisis of today, and looking at the world of today and how more and more polarized it's becoming, the space for neutral and impartial humanitarian organizations like ours is unfortunately shrinking, because everything is becoming political, including humanitarian aid, and it is a huge issue for us. So unfortunately, in terms of access, and for us, our organization not being able to get access to where we need to be, I'm afraid to say that this is not unprecedented. With the results of the human suffering, I don't think it's ethical or possible to compare, but clearly what I'm speaking to my colleagues in Gaza every day, and what they are telling me as a humanitarian professional who's been in this area for 15 years, I just cannot, it's impossible to listen to this and keep calm. Yesterday, on the way to the Gaza city, they saw thousands of people walking, children, elderly people, people in wheelchairs, and when they saw them, they were asking, like, where can we get to safety? How can we get food? How we can get water? And our team, they just didn't have the answers to this question. And as a humanitarian worker, it's very painful to work in this type of situation.
Absolutely. Alana Sinenko, thank you so much for your time this morning, for the work that you're doing and sharing it with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let's now take a look at some foggy weather along the Gulf Coast this morning and some showers from Michigan to right here in New York today.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman's tracking it all with the Morning News Now forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. We do have indeed some fog that has developed across parts of the Gulf Coast, and we've got advisories up for that dense fog stretching from Florida all the way into portions of Louisiana. There's hazardous driving conditions for that early morning commute with reduced visibilities. You can see some of these about a mile coming out from Mobile and less than a mile from Hattiesburg down to Slidell. This is going to be something we deal with at least for another couple of hours. Once the sun comes up, we start to see that air kind of mixing, and that fog, of course, diminishes. But still, the driving conditions are difficult. We had a super fog event that developed yesterday, and there's a couple of reasons for that. This was in Louisiana along I-10. You can see there was a marsh fire just off to the east. This started to bring some smoke in. It mixed with that saturated air, and then we saw really dense fog developing in a hurry. We, of course, had some accidents that happened in that region along I-10, and that as that light wind started to push that fog into the northwest. So the reduced visibility was something we saw yesterday. We're still seeing it today, and we'll be watching it through at least the rest of the morning hours. Meanwhile, across the rest of the country, we've got record highs that we're tracking across the south. It's going to be another warm one, shorts, T-shirt weather with a whole lot of sunshine, especially across places like Texas. We'll see plenty of sunshine in Florida. But we do have some rain and some snow, a wintry mix to track for portions of the Great Lakes. This is going to be a bit of rain, maybe a little ice and some snow even, especially in the northern tier of the Great Lakes, the upper peninsula of Michigan, parts of Wisconsin, and even western New York could get in on this action. Now, as we get into tomorrow, some of that will work its way into New England. We'll see mainly rain from Boston south, but it'll be a little bit of snow and a little bit of that icy mix that we'll have to deal with for northern New England. Of course, temperatures will take a tumble too. So those 80s that they're seeing in the south, guys, that will not be the case for parts of New England tomorrow.
No 80s in New England? All right.
Taste of winter. Angie, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.